So, welcome. Anyways, okay, let me find chapter 2. That's chapter 4. Chapter 2, chapter 2, chapter 2, chapter 2. To give people a minute to join. Chat settings. Someone is here. Hello. I am reading. I don't know if you already saw my post, but I'm going to read the second. I'm going to read the second chapter of the first book of the Wing Feather Saga today. So I'm going to start in 5 minutes. So I'm just making sure my chat filter is on. I mean, not on. So I can see all messages, show every message. Hello. Thank you guys so much for coming. We are going to be starting in just a second. I assume you guys are obviously here to read this. It's good that my chat's on. I've been really scared because for like the past 4 times I've done live, my chat won't stay on and I don't know why. Cause it's like, we think you're under 10 years of age. Girl, I'm 15. I don't know about you. Anyways, so yes, we are reading chapter 2. We're gonna start at 9:10, so it looks like in 2 minutes. So yeah, it'll be great. If you guys could just give random updates to make sure my chat still stays on. I mean, it doesn't really need to be on for this live, but you know, I like to talk to you guys. So looks like da 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 da. Okay, yeah, but we are gonna get started at 9:10. It is page 11. If you have your book, follow along. If you don't have your book, don't worry about it. I'm trying to make sure my freaking chat stays on. Participant, anyone? Message delay, none. Okay, we should be great. We should be great. Well, okay. So I'm basically doing this live because, hello. I'm basically doing this live because every time I've made so many videos for reading the Wing Feather Saga because it breaks my heart that people want to like be involved in the community and watch the show, but they don't have access to the books. And I think it's just a great way to kind of make everyone included because I think it can be hard when everyone is in on an inside joke or know what's everyone's talking about and you don't know what's going on. So I decided I'd do this thing where I start reading you guys the Wing Feather Saga to kind of show you guys what the hype is. So we're starting in 1 minute at 9:10. So a few more people to join then and we will get right started. There is chapter 1. If you haven't read chapter 1, I encourage reading chapter 1, but that's a posted video. I decided since I already posted that video, I just go right into chapter 2. A brief summary of chapter 1. Janner basically woke up to he was having dreams about the black carriage and Sarah Cobbler got took. She's a central part in the series, so she's important. Anyways, we are going to get started now. So this is chapter 2, Nuggets, Hammers, and Potatoes. In the morning, the dreams were gone. The sun was shining, and the cool of morning was losing ground to a hot summer sun, and Janner was imagining that he could fly. He was watching the dragonflies float across the pasture, putting his mind into a dragonfly's mind to see what it saw and feel what it felt. He imagined the slight turn of a wing that sent it zipping across a meadow, whipping left and right, lifting on the wind up over the treetops, or scaling down the craggy drop to the dark sea. He imagined that if he were a dragonfly, he could smile while he flew, though he wasn't sure that dragonflies could smile, because he wouldn't have to worry about the ground tripping him up. It seemed to Janner that in the last few months he had lost control of his limbs. His fingers were longer, his feet were bigger, and his mother had recently said that he was all elbows and knees. Janner reached into his pocket and, looking around to be sure no one was watching, pulled out a folded piece of old paper. His stomach fluttered as it had when he found the paper a week before while sweeping his mother's bedroom. He unfolded it now to brood upon a sketch of a boy standing on the prow of a small sailboat. The boy had dark hair and gangly limbs and looked undeniably like Janner. Big billowy clouds whitened the sky, and the spray of the waves burst up into splashes that looked so real and wet, it seemed to Janner that if he touched them, he would smear the picture. Beneath the drawing was written, "My 12th birthday. 2 hours alone on the open sea and the best day of my life so far." Hello, everybody. We are reading chapter 2 of On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness. Yes, the picture. You get it, Hannah. So please follow along. I know a lot of you have already read this, but we're just doing it for fun. There was no name on the picture, but Janner knew in his heart that the boy was his father. No one ever talked about his father, not his mother, nor his grandfather. Janner knew little about him, but seeing this picture was like opening a window on a dark place deep inside. It confirmed his suspicion that there was more to life than living and dying in the Glipwood Township. Janner had never seen a boat up close. He had watched them from cliffs, specks cutting slow paths like ribbons through the distant waves, sailed by a crew on some adventurous errand or other. He imagined himself on his own ship, feeling the wind and the spray like the boy in the picture. Jenner snapped out of his daydream to find himself leaning on a pitchfork up to his knees in itchy hay. Yeah, way more to life. Instead of feeling the ocean wind, he faced a cloud of chaff and dust shaken by Danny the cart horse, impatiently harnessed to a wagon full of hay, waiting to be carried across the field to the barn. Jenner had been working since sunrise and had made 3 trips already, anxious to finish his chores. Today was the Dragon Day festival, and the only day of the year that Janner was glad to be in the quiet little town of Glipwood. The whole village waited all year for Dragon Day, when all of Scree seemed to descend on Glipwood. There would be games, food, strange-looking people from faraway cities, and the dragons themselves rising up out of the dark sea. As far as he knew, Janner had never left Glipwood in all his 12 years. So the festival was the closest he got to seeing the rest of the world, and a good reason to be quick about finishing up with the hay. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked wistfully over his shoulder at a dragonfly zipping away. Then he dug into the hay with a grunt and pitched it into the wagon. As he did so, his foot caught on a stone hidden beneath the hay, and he lurched forward, toppling face first into a neat, fresh pile of Danny the cart horse's nuggets. Janner leapt to his feet, sputtering and wiping his face with fistfuls of hay. Danny the cart horse looked at him, snorted, and tore up a mouthful of grass. While Janner ran, quick as a dragonfly, to the water to try to clean his face, across the field and past the fence, Janner's brother Tink, whose given name was Kalmar, straddled the cottage roof, 2 nails between his lips and a hammer in one hand. Tink was trying to repair a loose shingle, but having a hard time of it, so violent was his trembling. When he was younger, just riding on his grandfather's shoulders made him nervous, and though he laughed, his eyes were always wide with fear until he was placed firmly on the ground again. Poto, his grandfather, always assigned the reparation of the roof to Tink because he thought it would do him good to face his fear. But Tink, now 11 years old, was still as frightened as ever. Shaking like a leaf, he removed a nail from between his lips and hammered it into the roof as timidly as if he were hammering his own face. He looked out across the field to see Janner trip headlong into the water trough, and he wished he were finished with his chores so he could play a game of Zibsy with his big brother at the Dragon Day games. Tico was useless on the roof, but when his feet were on solid ground, he could run like a stag. With the first tap of the hammer, the nail slipped from between Tink's fingers. He tried to catch it, missed, and threw himself down, hugging both sides of the hot roof. Nail and hammer clattered down the roof in opposite directions and over the edge. Tink groaned because it meant having to inch his way over the edge and down the ladder again. It also meant it would be that much longer before they were able to go into town for the festival. Lose something? Tink's fear turned to grumpiness. Just throw it back up, will you? Tink heard laughter, and then the hammer flew up and over end and landed a few feet from him. He gathered his courage to reach near the edge and grabbed the hammer with a trembling hand just before it slid back down. "Thanks, Lily," he called, trying to sound a lot nicer. Lily sat back down on the steps at the back of the cottage and continued peeling potatoes, humming to herself. Nugget was at her feet, tail wagging, panting in the welcome shade. Soon, Lily worked her way to her feet with a small wooden crutch and brushed the potato peelings from the front of her dress. Carrying the bucket, she limped into the house, Nugget close behind. Her right leg twisted inward at an unnatural angle below the knee, and the toes of her bad leg trailed lightly along the wooden floor. When she was little more than a baby, she had learned to walk with a tiny crutch under her arm, and every year her grandfather made her a bigger one, each more ornate and sturdy than the last. This one was made of yew, and had little purple flowers etched along its leg. Lily plopped the bucket of peeled potatoes on the table behind Nia, her mother, who was tossing ingredients into a large pot of stew. Ah, thank you, dear. Nia wiped her hands on her apron, then pushed a few stray hairs behind her ear. She was tall and graceful, and Lily thought her mother was so beautiful that the plain dress she wore fit her like a royal gown. Nia's hands were strong and calloused from years of work, but gentle enough to braid Lily's hair or stroke her boys' faces when she kissed them goodnight. Would you fetch your grandfather for me? Oh my gosh, that would be so cute. He's been in the garden gathering herbs for at least an hour now, which can only mean one thing. Lily laughed. The thwaps are back. I'm afraid so. Nia turned back to her stew just as another clatter sounded above him. Her eyes followed the sound across the ceiling to the window where she and Lily saw Tink's hammer fall to the grass. A muffled moan came from the roof. I'll get it. Lily limped out the back door and tossed the hammer back up to Tink. Janner loped into the cottage, sopping wet from the waist up, bringing with him a terrible smell and a swarm of fat green flies buzzing about his head. As Lily limped around the front of the cottage to find her grandfather, she heard her mother shriek and shoo Janner out of the house, where he was promptly bonked on the head by a falling hammer. Okay, that is chapter 2 of the Wingfeather Saga. So, yeah, it's still pretty in our silly zone. So, I love book one just because like it's not my favorite of the series, but whenever I'm having a bad day, I just read book one because it's so I get the reference. Because it's just I don't know, it's so nostalgic and it's also just like it brings so much happiness. So there are sad moments in this book, but this book is also very funny and I love this book. It's so good. Um so yeah, when I finish reading the fourth book and I just become extremely depressed because if you've read the fourth book, you know what I'm talking about. Not even just the ending, but just the entire fourth book is so sad. Um, so sometimes when I'm done reading the fourth book, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pick this up for a while, and I read the first chapter and I start crying because it's like it's so simple and happy. So. I am not going to spoil anything, but I just love this book. So I am so excited. We're finally kicking off our series. So hopefully we'll get more and more people to start joining the lives. But if there's no people in here, I'll read it. You know, it's just like it's a good time for me to kind of reread the series in an organized way, and also just like anybody who wants to listen can listen. I really love reading, so it's not like a chore for me. I think it's so much fun. So yeah, I hope you guys liked reading chapter 2. I read the first chapter after reading the last book and sobbed. Me too, bro. Oh my gosh, the difference. Oh, it's so sad. Anyways, so I hope you guys really like chapter 2. I think it's so funny. I love hearing about them. They remind me of me and my siblings when we were little. So I think it's so fun reading about them. Um, so yeah, we will read chapter 3 tomorrow. And once we start getting more people to join the lives, we're going to be doing 2 chapters alive. And kind of like depending on how much time we have, we'll do more. So I'm so excited. And if you guys have any questions about when certain things are coming out, once we start to get into book 4, we're going to be reading, which is a while from now, but we're going to be reading more like 3 or 4 chapters alive, simply because book 4 is big and a lot material to cover. But we will get there. So I hope you got, yeah, bring more people, Hannah. You got to bring more people because I need more people to watch this live. So, yeah, so it'll be so much fun. Thank you to the 3 people who came. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah, for commenting and staying. I love when I have people talking about the same thing I like to talk about. So sometimes I just rant about the Wingfeather Saga and I get ahead of myself. So sorry, long rant. I will be back tomorrow to read chapter 3 and maybe chapter 4 if we have time and people join. But yes, get all your friends to join. Say you should read the Wingfeather Saga. Again, if you haven't read chapter 1, it's posted in a video. But yeah, anyways, so that's the end of this live. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see you guys tomorrow and expect a lot more content. I love you all. Bye.